The air in the courtroom was thick with a silence that felt heavier than any spoken word. My son, Kieran, stood before the judge, his voice a weapon he'd honed over 16 years of quiet anger. His face, a mirror of my own at his age, was twisted with disgust. "He's still the same coward he was when I was 12, he said, his gaze fixed on me. "He just sits there and takes it because he knows he's guilty." Something inside me finally broke, not with a crash, but with a quiet click. I rose, my legs unsteady, and asked the judge if I could speak. She gave a surprised nod. As I walked to the stand, every step felt like a year in reverse, a journey back to the night my life fractured. I looked at my son and the woman who had once been my wife and began to speak the truth I'd carried like a stone in my gut for more than a decade. My story began when I was 24, a young man navigating the thrilling chaos of new fatherhood. My wife, Vivian, was a force of nature, beautiful, magnetic, and effortlessly charming. We met when I was 21 and married 3 years later, 6 months before Kieran was born. For a while, our life was a beautiful lie I believed with my whole heart. Vivian was everyone's favorite. My family loved her, her friends adored her, and she had a gift for making anyone feel like the center of her universe. I should have realized that a gift could also be a weapon. The first signs of trouble were subtle: a hushed phone call, a text message quickly hidden, an excuse about working late. My trust was absolute. We had a son. We had a life. Why would I question it? The first piece of concrete evidence arrived when Kieran was 5. I was on Vivian's laptop and found an email thread with a man named Marcus. The messages weren't overtly romantic, but the intimacy in their words, the shared secrets and inside jokes, was a betrayal all its own. I confronted her that night, and her reaction was not guilt, but annoyance. She calmly explained Marcus away as a coworker, turning my suspicion into my own paranoia. By the end of the conversation, I was the one apologizing for my lack of trust. This was the start of the pattern, the gaslighting, the manipulation, the slow erosion of my reality. Over the next few years, I caught her in lie after lie. Different men, different stories, but the same cold, calculated pattern. I would find the proof, confront her, and somehow become the villain, paranoid, controlling, suffocating. All the while, Kieran was watching. He was a smart kid, sensitive to the tension that hung in the air between us. But Vivian was careful. She presented a flawless facade of the loving, attentive mother. And I, the man who was quietly being destroyed, became the monster in my own home. The breaking point arrived when Kieran was 12. I found messages on Vivian's phone with someone named David, and this time, there was no room for denial. Explicit photos, plans to meet, a betrayal so complete it took my breath away. I took screenshots of everything and went to see a lawyer. But when I returned home to pack my things and tell my son what was happening, Vivian was ready. She had figured out what I knew and gotten to Kieran first. She told him I was leaving them for another woman, that I had been planning to abandon them for months. She showed him fabricated text messages and doctored photos. She was so convincing that for a moment, even I doubted my own memories. Kieran looked at me with his hurt, confused, angry eyes and asked if it was true. I tried to explain, to show him the real evidence, but her poison had already taken hold. That night, my 12-year-old son told me he never wanted to see me again. He called me a coward for running away instead of fighting. He said I was a liar and a cheater, undeserving of his love. Those words shattered me. I moved out that week. I paid my child support religiously and tried to maintain a relationship with Kieran, but Vivian had turned him against me so completely that every interaction was a fresh wound. For 16 years, I was a ghost in my son's life. I watched his baseball games from a distance, attended his graduation from the back row, and sent cards and gifts that were never opened. All the while, I kept the proof of Vivian's betrayal. I told myself I was saving it for the right moment, but the truth was, I was too broken to use it. Then came the courtroom and Kieran's stinging words. "You're still the same coward you were when I was 12. That's when it hit me. He was right. I had been a coward, but not in the way he thought. I looked at him from the witness stand, my voice trembling. "Kieran," I said, "you're right. I have been a coward for your entire life, but not for the reasons you believe." I pulled out my phone and read a letter I had finally found the courage to write. "When you were 12 years old, you asked me if I was leaving you for another woman. I tried to tell you the truth, but you wouldn't listen. So I've spent 16 years writing this letter in my head." I looked at him then, at his pale face and shocked expression. "Your mother had been cheating on me for years with multiple men. I have the proof, thousands of messages, photos, evidence that would have destroyed her reputation. But I never used it. Do you know why? Because you loved her. Because she was your mother, and despite everything she had done to me, she had never hurt you." The courtroom was utterly silent. "I couldn't bring myself to destroy your relationship with the one parent you had left, even if it meant you would hate me forever. I let you believe I was the villain so you could keep your hero." My voice broke. "I never fought back because I loved you more than I loved myself. I never defended myself because protecting your innocence mattered more to me than protecting my reputation. Yes, that makes me a coward, but not the kind you think." I glanced at Vivian, who was now staring at me with pure hatred. Her carefully constructed narrative was crumbling before her eyes. "I could have shown you the evidence 16 years ago. I could have proven that everything you believed was a lie. But I couldn't do that to a 12-year-old boy who needed to believe in his mother. So I let you hate me instead." Tears were now in Kieran's eyes, and his hands were shaking. "I've watched you grow up from the shadows. I've been proud of every accomplishment, worried about every setback, loved you through every moment of anger and hatred you've thrown at me, and I would do it all again. Because you're my son, and a father's job isn't to be loved, it's to love, even when it's killing him." I left the courtroom that day, unsure if I would ever see my son again. The judge ruled in my favor, but I didn't care about the money. 3 days later, I received a text message from a number I didn't recognize. "Dad, can we talk?" We met at a coffee shop. He looked exhausted. The first thing he said was, "Show me the evidence." I did. For hours, he went through 16 years of proof of his mother's double life. With each message and each photo, I watched his world crumble and rebuild. When he was done, he sat in silence for a long time. Then he looked at me and asked, "Why didn't you fight for me?" I told him the truth I had just spoken in court. "I did fight for you, just not in the way you wanted me to. Our relationship is still a work in progress. There's so much hurt to work through, so many years to make up for. But for the first time in 16 years, my son knows the truth. Sometimes the greatest act of love is letting someone hate you so they can love someone else. Sometimes being strong means appearing weak. And sometimes the hardest battles are the ones nobody sees you fighting."